Now, 11 News at 10.
One issue, two viewpoints. The threat of war has area residents hitting the streets, speaking out for what they feel is right. And good evening, I'm George Smith.
I'm Sherman Chow. Thanks for joining us.
With the prospect of war in Iraq becoming more realistic each and every day, voices here at home are growing louder and louder.
Area residents on both sides of the emotionally charged issue want their opinions known. 11 News reporter Mike Zentek introduces us to two young Houstonians. They're the same age, but see the potential conflict through two very different sets of eyes.
They came to a small patch of green in the woodlands not to play, but to pledge.
Details.
Pledge support for U.S. troops and the president who would make the decision to send them into Iraq.
Our generation doesn't know what it means to give up for something greater than yourself, you know?
26-year-old Joanna Escobar drove an hour from Sugar Land to be part of the crowd.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
She claims many other 20-somethings are on her side of the fence.
People that live in Iraq, it's important to liberate them and give them what we have, that we take for granted every single day.
And a couple of hours later, in a different part of the Houston area, another 26-year-old was making a very different statement about the possibility of war in Iraq.
I believe in freedom and I believe in democracy.
Which is why medical student Matthew O'Connor joined about 24 protesters on the Dunleavy Bridge over Highway 59, who let their signs speak to the drivers buzzing along underneath. O'Connor and others aren't persuaded by the president's push.
This isn't going to be a war against Saddam Hussein. It's going to be a war against the people of Iraq. A lot of people are going to die if we go in there.
Joanna Escobar couldn't disagree more. Different opinions in a land where you can freely express them. Mike Zentek, 11 News.
You may remember that earlier this year, two war protesters were arrested for attaching a sign to the Dunleavy Bridge. That's why today's demonstrators simply held on to their signs. And Houston wasn't the only American city playing host to war-related rallies today. Thousands of protesters from more than 100 cities gathered at the Washington Monument. Many say that they're clinging to hope they could stop the march to war, or at least slow it. About a half dozen protesters were arrested. Larger rallies also took place from California to West Virginia.
An anti-war call went out globally today as well. From Asia through Europe and the Middle East, protesters are pushing for peace. Protesters in Spain said no to any possible U.S.-led attack against Iraq today. Organizers were expecting as many as 1 million people. Spain's prime minister has been a staunch supporter of the tough U.S. and British stance on Iraq. Police in France were expecting around 200,000 demonstrators on the streets of Paris today. French President Jacques Chirac has vowed to use his veto at the United Nations if Washington seeks UN backing for a resolution that permits military action against Iraq. Protests in Athens, Greece turned dramatic. Tens of thousands of people marched to the U.S. Embassy. Some women staged street performances while holding baby mannequins. And at one point, protesters threw bones on the ground outside the embassy. Many of those opposed to war in Moscow, Russia, expressed their opinion by burning American flags. Opinion polls have shown that an overwhelming majority of the nation backs its government in opposing force. One protester said President Bush was making clear he'll remove whatever leader he doesn't like. And in Baghdad, Iraq today, hundreds of thousands protested against U.S. policy. Senior Iraqi military officials told President Saddam Hussein today that preparations for the defense of the country have been completed. Here are the latest headlines tonight. Sources say the Bush administration has taken back its offer of $15 billion in aid to Turkey in exchange for military cooperation.
Iraq has invited the two chief UN weapons inspectors to Baghdad as early as possible to speed up cooperation on disarmament.
And President Bush chided the international community for not supporting the U.S. in securing a UN resolution backing force.
The President and the Prime Ministers of Britain and Spain will hold an emergency summit tomorrow in Portugal's Azores Islands. The White House says it isn't a council of war, but a last push for diplomacy. The leaders are trying to find enough votes for their UN resolution. The diplomats at the United Nations said today that negotiations appear to be all but over. France, Russia and Germany called for the UN Security Council to set a timetable for Iraqi disarmament, but they also issued a strong statement rejecting war. Those three nations have called for Security Council foreign ministers to meet on Tuesday. They want to draw up a timetable to certify Iraq free of weapons of mass destruction.
UN weapons inspectors continued visiting sites around Baghdad today, and inspectors watched over the destruction of more of Iraqi's illegal missiles. A total of 65 Al-Samud 2 missiles and 42 warheads have been dismantled. The United Nations says the missiles exceed maximum range limits. The U.S. and Britain have dismissed the move as insufficient and called for more sweeping steps to disarm. Chief Inspector Hans Blix will present his latest report on Monday. The British Foreign Secretary says the chances of war are growing, and today U.S. Rear Admiral Barry Costello met Commodore Jamie Miller on board Britain's flagship aircraft carrier. They were discussing plans for a naval campaign. Costello says planning is just about complete. Execution is next, and they're ready to move forward.
Hundreds of area reservists got a little help today from their friends at the Red Cross. Many of the soldiers are getting ready for deployment, so the Red Cross held a briefing letting them know how the organization can help while they're overseas. The Red Cross says it has two primary purposes when assisting the troops. First is providing emergency communication between the soldiers and their relatives. It also provides financial assistance.
The fear of war is not enough to stop a local children's choir from living a dream. The St. Cecilia Singers have decided to head to Rome anyway to sing for the Pope. 11 News reporter Wendell Edwards tells us about the special invitation that comes with a warning.
For almost a year, they have practiced and practiced and practiced until their 45 voices blended as one.
We've had to have Saturday practices from 9 to 3, and we've just been rehearsing our songs. We've had to go home every day and practice it for at least an hour, and we've really gotten to know our songs very well.
And yet tonight, another practice in preparation of a concert in front of friends and family. All of it readying them for the biggest concert of all, performing at the Vatican in Rome, Italy.
We're going to get to be in front of the Pope and sing. I think that's just such a great opportunity.
Opportunity that comes at a time of utmost uncertainty. The St. Cecilia Singers will be making the trip to Europe during a time when America is on the brink of a war in the Middle East. That fact led director Stephen Sloper to warn the choir and their families about Americans being overseas.
We're kind of downplaying the American thing a little bit. Obviously we're American. We're singing a lot of American music by American composers. But I've just told the kids and their families not to wear, American flags on all their clothes and all that stuff, just for safety.
With the talk of war and the threat of terrorism, some choir students say they don't know what makes them more nervous, traveling overseas or performing in front of the Pope.
I'm more nervous of singing to the Pope because there's nothing to worry about being overseas because I know that the Lord is going to guide us there.
Breaking out overseas because I'm very comfortable with all my music. I've memorized it, and it's going to be a great concert that we do for him.
A great concert from a small group with the big voice. In West Houston, Wendell Edwards, 11 News.
The choir will be in Rome for 8 days. They'll perform for the Pope on Wednesday and at Mass on Sunday, March 23rd. A little bit of pressure performing for the Pope. Be sure to stay with 11 News for up-to-the-minute coverage of the showdown with Saddam. You can also head to our website, KHOU.com, for complete coverage. Just click on the Iraq banner.
An apartment explosion in Dickinson this afternoon left a 74-year-old man with second and third-degree burns. They are over 95% of his body. The natural gas explosion actually threw the man outside. It also started a small fire that neighbors tried to fight with buckets of water and hoses. Dickinson firefighters finished the job. The man is in critical condition at Memorial Hermann Hospital. No word on a cause.
A South Houston family is asking for help tonight in finding their son. 19-year-old Roy Martinez has been missing since yesterday afternoon. He was last seen near Spencer and Shaver in South Houston. Martinez has Down syndrome and diabetes and does not have his medication with him. He was last seen wearing a red and white striped polo-style shirt, black pants, and black zippered shoes. If you have any information, you're asked to call South Houston Police.
While the community celebrates the return of Elizabeth Smart, investigators try to unravel the path she took with her alleged abductors.
There are new warnings tonight about a mysterious form of pneumonia that's spreading fast.
The Houston Humane Society had its hands full today, rescuing nearly 30 neglected pets.
Plus, your forecast. How's the second half of your weekend shaping up?
In the spirit of Texas with George Smith and Sherman Chow. You're watching 11 News at 10.
We're learning more tonight about the path Elizabeth Smart and her alleged abductors may have taken in the days before their capture.
In the meantime, residents in Salt Lake City, Utah continue to celebrate her return. Last night, a large crowd gathered to celebrate the 15-year-old's homecoming. Elizabeth sent a message back saying she's the luckiest girl in the world. Investigators say her kidnapping may have been driven by the religious fanaticism of Brian Mitchell and his wife Wanda Barzee, a homeless couple. Barzee reportedly said today that Mitchell received a revelation from God telling him to take 7 more wives. Las Vegas police say they questioned 3 transients that were likely Mitchell, Barzee, and Smart on Tuesday, the day before Smart was found. And Mitchell was arrested twice during the time Elizabeth was missing.
Warnings tonight of a new worldwide health threat. It's a mysterious killer pneumonia that has spread from East Asia to other parts of the globe. So far, 9 people have died, and the outbreak may have hit the U.S. It's so new, it doesn't even have an official name yet. The World Health Organization is calling it a worldwide threat. The unusual strain of pneumonia is dubbed Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, or SARS. It is quickly spreading around the globe.
But we are keeping an open mind, and until we know the cause, we can't jump to any conclusions about what is really going on or what the routes of spread include.
The outbreak began in Asia and has now reached North America. A Canadian mother and son have died in Toronto. 4 of the relatives have been hospitalized. Meanwhile, a doctor who treated a patient in Singapore with that illness had to be removed from a returned flight from New York after he began showing symptoms of the mysterious virus. He and his 2 companions are now in isolation. The 155 other passengers on that flight were briefly quarantined. Symptoms include a high fever, coughing, shortness of breath, and difficulty breathing. But health officials say that there is no need to panic.
This is a very small subset of people in this country right now, and we do not want every person with a fever or a chest cold to be concerned about this syndrome.
The World Health Organization also triggered a rare worldwide emergency travel advisory. More than 150 cases were reported in the last week alone. Doctors do not know what causes the illness. It has not responded to treatment for bacterial or viral infections. It's believed that the potentially fatal illness is spread person to person. Pakistani authorities arrested another key al-Qaeda member today. U.S. government sources say that he oversees communication among the terrorist organization's operatives. Yasir al-Jaziri is among the leading terrorists wanted by the U.S. American and Pakistani sources have intensified the search for al-Qaeda operatives. That began after the group's number 3 man, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, was arrested March 1st. Information extracted from Mohammed led authorities to al-Jaziri.
Chambers County Sheriff's deputies were checking on the welfare of an elderly woman today, but found something else entirely. Inside her home in Dayton, they discovered nearly 30 very sick animals. The Houston Humane Society went out and rescued the animals, about 10 dogs and close to 20 cats. Investigators say the animals were found on tables, crouched in corners, even hiding between kitchen appliances. They're suffering from everything from mange to malnutrition. The Humane Society is now looking for the new homes for the animals. Investigators say the 82-year-old woman has been gone anywhere from 24 hours to 10 days. They think she may be visiting relatives in the Nacogdoches area. No word on possible charges.
Today, an early St. Patrick's Day celebration began with a bang. And plenty of noisemakers. The 44th annual St. Patty's Day Parade rolled through the streets of downtown Houston this morning. Most knew to wear green, but there were a few who decided to change the colors a bit. Turned out to be a pretty nice day to be in the streets.
Absolutely. Turning to weather now. A beautiful day to be in the streets. A live eagle-eye view of downtown Houston. It was in the mid-70s or so today. Let's see what's in store for the rest of the weekend. Mario Gomez here now with the full forecast. Mario?
Jordan Sherman, plenty to smile about today, but I'm not sure you'll be smiling tomorrow. In fact, we may all be putting on sad faces as we see our forecast in just a while. The rain got close today, though. The Texas Gulf Coast was treated to a lot of sunshine, as you just heard from George. The rain showers, though, quite heavy down around Matagorda Bay. We're looking at a smattering of rain showers out across the western sections of the state, but here's where the greatest concentrations of rain have been throughout the day. We're now switching to our rainfall totals, and as much as 6 to 8 inches from Bay City south towards Matagorda along the immediate Gulf Coast area, as you see here in red, as much as 6 to 8 inches this afternoon. That all fell in just a few hours. We're looking at a big area of low pressure situated out over the south central portions of the state. This upper low is what's created all this rain you see here on our SkyMax 11 Doppler. We'll put it in animation. It looks like the rain got very close to the middle Texas Gulf Coast. It looked like it was going to make a pass towards Houston, but you can see the rain showers dissipating tonight without much success of getting into the Houston area this evening. But we may have another chance tomorrow. 77 degrees in the sunshine today. No talk of rain here today. In fact, no rain officially at either of the airports. Temperatures typically are in the low 70s. We were warmer than that both this morning and this afternoon. 64 degrees currently in the Houston area. We've got an east-southeast wind out there. Humidity still high. At 56 is our dew point. We may see a little bit of patchy ground fog. Again, much like we saw today. You can see here's the upper level storm swinging, looks like just south of the Houston area. That might miss us, but another upper level series of weather systems will be marching in across the west central portions of the state tonight into Houston probably tomorrow. But this is the big storm that concerns us. This one has the potential to bring a real round of severe weather to the Houston area. It is vertically stacked in the atmosphere. We do have some shear in the atmosphere in the upper levels, and that could bring in some storms actually by Tuesday afternoon. That's our best chances for rain. The upper level disturbance that is currently over the west central portions of the state will track in probably tomorrow morning and give us a chance for showers as well. What we're saying is basically get ready for rain. It's still going to stay mild, though. Numbers in the mid-70s tomorrow afternoon. A warm day for spring breakers down on Cancun and Cozumel with upper 80s. Acapulco wasn't too bad either. 84 degrees here in Houston and Texas wide. The numbers were mostly in the mid to upper 70s. Dallas stood out there at 80 degrees, though. Again, it looks like this upper level storm will be passing to the south of Houston, and with it will go most of our rain chances tonight. But you can see there's still another storm over here across sections of Midland and Abilene, and that might give us another chance for rain tomorrow. So our forecast is calling for a passing rain chance tomorrow afternoon. I think that'll move through tomorrow night, and as we get into Monday, it looks like we'll be between weather systems, awaiting the next major storm system that could touch off some severe weather in Houston on Tuesday. That could be our first really major outbreak of severe weather here around the Gulf Coast. By Wednesday, we'll see a break in the temperatures, a break in the weather with the milder mid-70s holding on for much of the week. Looks like springtime weather has arrived a little bit early in Houston with all that stormy weather anticipated tomorrow and Tuesday. Back to you all.
Okay, Mario, thanks very much.
How much is that bovine in the window? They lassoed some big bucks at the rodeo today during the Grand Champion Steer Auction.
Plus, local Marines take a patriotic cruise carrying a flag that has special meaning.
Where's the beef? Well, this weekend, it's at Reliant Park.
That's where today's Rodeo Houston Grand Champion Steer Auction was held. More than 24 steers were sold to the highest bidder. The Grand Champion, also known as Cracker, was sold for $375,000, but that didn't beat last year's record price of $600,000. And a reminder about a special program we'll be airing from 7:30 to 8 tomorrow night. It's called Growing Together, the Changing Face of Houston. 11 News anchor Greg Hurst is the host. You'll find out some interesting information about changes in our community.
And tonight's Spirit of Texas Service salute goes out to Jacqueline Reyes. She's been in the Army since 1997 and is currently stationed in Seoul, South Korea. Reyes graduated from Baytown Lee High School. And if there's an active service person in your life that you'd like for us to salute, send us their name, some background information to either address on your screen, and please also include your name and number so we can tell you when to watch.
Dance cards continue to go out just before March Madness begins in earnest. Would TSU get an invitation to the big dance?